So I'm going to give you some information just about using the manual and using the system a little bit, and we're gonna look at a couple of things on how you might be able to get some help while you're using some of the commands you're using. In this case, we'll look at a couple of different things. One is just to remind you what you're looking at here is called an instance of the shell. This is a bash shell. Bash stands for Born Again Shell, and we'll look more at bash another lecture. But um, just to give you an idea of what's possible, if I can actually read more about the shell by looking at its manual page. So I'm going to use the man command in bash, and I have all the information I need to know about this command, and there is a lot. This is probably about a 200-page manual, but it goes through everything that you ever wanted to know about bash and then some. So you can learn how this particular environment works to do some really interesting things and automate some things. But we're going to look at another command called password, the one that you used in the lab. Now, if I just type in password right here, it's gonna actually allow me to change my password. Because see, my username is ZeroCell, so if I type in password, I'm going to get that command to change my password. But we'll look at its manual page by typing in man and the word password, PASSWD. And of course, here we get just the manual for that command, and it gives us the quick name, the synopsis, the description of it, how to use it, um, what the requirements are for it. It says hints for passwords, right? And then all the different options that we can use in order to invoke this command and have it do certain things. So these are all the options that will be passed to the command. So a lot of times what I do when I'm looking at a command and I'm trying to get an idea of how to use it, is I go through and scan its manual page and just get some quick ideas of how I might be able to manipulate or modify its invocation to do different things. Now, the word I used was invocation, and that is the word you may not be familiar with. But another way to think of an invocation, and you will see that in some manuals, instead of saying synopsis, it will in fact say invocation. And it means how you use the command. Um, in my thinking, I would normally put the synopsis for the command in the description field, not the synopsis. The invocation would go here. But so there are some manuals that actually have it that way. So if you ever see that, it just means how you use the command pragmatically, and why you would use it is in the description. So we can keep going through here. We can learn more about this command. We can look at all the options that are there. Now, again, to keep in mind what I'm doing to make this work is I'm using my VI bindings. So if you went through the Vim tutor, you got some practice on that. I recommend picking one and sticking with it. Vim is useful enough that it's everywhere, and so you can turn key bindings on in a lot of places. So as we go down, one thing about password is that it shows you some of the files that are used by the password command, and you'll see this in the text as well. But these three things, these three files are actually utilized by a password command, and so you can see also exit values. So and these exit values are handy when I want to have my shell evaluate something, and I can use the basically the password command as a subcommand of something else, and I can test and see, well, what is the value that this returns. Obviously, if I use a command that says unexpected failure, password file missing, it's going to return value 4, and I can test for that. And, they control quite a number of things with these return values. And then finally, I have see also. So see also is kind of like an index, so I can actually look at some of the other commands that are available that are related to this this password command. And then of course Q for quit. So that's a manual page. There are many commands that are available using and on this particular system, as you can see, I used tab to do autocomplete, and it tells me, do you want me to show you all 9,360 possibilities? No, I do not. So, but as you can see, that's how many entries are in the manual. There's another way to get help, and that is if you have a command they want to use, in this case ls. Now we can, if we type ls, we're going to get the basic invocation of that command that's going to list files. So that's one of the first commands we learned. We can use a switch and list files differently, like that. It gives detail. Or I can use a switch called help, and most commands have a long switch called help, which will give me a little bit of information, give me a little bit of help. Now, one of the things that happens when I go to help is that it's really like the manual page, but this is the brief edition of the manual. And I noticed that it's about 3 pages worth of scrolling. So I'm going to go ahead and run that command, and I'm going to pipe that command through the less command, and that way I can actually page through it with my keys, my J and K keys. So, and then our Q for quit. But that will give me some brief information, and then of course I can look at the full manual for this command and page through this and look at all of the different options. So that is now 2 different ways you can use a command to get help. You have the long switch, which is --help. You have the manual, which is the man and the keyword or command. And then you also have one other way, and that is the info command. I'm going to show you a couple of things with info, because this is kind of good, because there's a lot of documentation that's inside this. And you can it's more of a documentation browser than the manual is. When I hit info, what I get is I get a program that comes up, and it is called info. Okay, so this is a terminal program. It tells me that I can hit Q for quit. I can hit H for a list of commands. I can hit little h for a tutorial, which is kind of like a longer list of commands. Or I can hit the M key and type in an actual menu option. So if I wanted to look at that first menu option of common options, I would type M and then the word common and press enter, and it would show me that menu option. And one of the first things that I would do normally when I'm looking at this command is I would try to press my J key on the keyboard to move down, and I noticed that that's not working. So what I have to do is I have to actually look at my H for help. can see that I'm not doing too good here. These key bindings can be quite confusing, and these are actually Emacs style key bindings. So what they end up doing usually is just confuse me because I don't use Emacs. So what I will show you is the fact that if I use the word info and I do VI keys, now I have full access to my VI key commands, which make it very easy for me to go down and over and tab. I can tab through the topics, and I can go up a page and down and tab and do all kinds of things here. It makes it very easy to utilize. So once I'm in the info command, I can really browse a little more of the documentation. So I'm going to quit. I'm going to show you one more thing here. There's a command called alias. So I'm going to show you really quickly in a short sentence how to use alias. And it says that what I would do is if I use -p, I will print all of the aliases. Now the only thing I have set up here is a list files command. So when I type, what this alias command says is when I use the command ls, that instead of just doing basic ls, my command is really going to be ls-color equal auto, which is going to colorize my menu. So that gives me a list of files that are in color instead of just black and white. So it's kind of cool, kind of helpful to do that. But what I want to do is I want to make another alias command, and I'm going to make an alias for the info. I'm gonna actually make that command info, and I'm going to say it equals info dash dash vi keys. Okay, and I'm going to hit enter. Now, if I type alias print -p, I can see that when I type info, I will be actually invoking the VI style key bindings, and there it is. I really like that, and I want to keep it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to modify a file that actually is loaded every time I start bash, and that is called the bash rc file. So I will open up my bash rc file, and I'm going to search. I just searched for alias. So as you can see, there are a couple of other aliases here already. And I'm going to go ahead and put in some aliases. And because this is a script, I can kind of put those wherever I want. So I'm going to go into insert mode, and I'm going to put in a comment. June 10th. So that command is alias info equals info vi keys. I'm going to hit escape to get out of insert mode, and then :W for write, and then quit. Now, that should, when the next time I start bash, that should appropriately load that alias into the alias command. So I'm going to just start a new terminal here, and I'll type my alias command and print and see what's there. And there it is. There's my command with VI key bindings. You can do this with any command that you want. If there's a particular command switch that you use all the time and you don't want to type it every time, one way that I could modify this would be if I wanted to always utilize the AL switch on the file list to hit list hidden files in detail. I could modify it to add in the switch. But this way, when I start info, now I have my VI key bindings. And basically, what ended up happening is I never think about it again until I have a system that doesn't have it, and I go, oh my goodness, what's going on here? I can't navigate this thing. I don't know what to do. And then you remember all of a sudden, oh yeah, I forgot to turn the key bindings on the right way. So little things like that can make a difference in the way we use a system. And the one thing is, if you don't really know what to do to navigate through some things and get some help, you don't have any way to learn everything that you need to learn. So the documentation is so important in the system. You absolutely cannot learn to administer a Linux system without reading the documentation. And so one of the things that you have to do when you do this is you have to learn how to throw away information, and you don't need to know all of it. You just scan, and then you pick out the things you do need to know, and then leave the rest of it alone and come back later. So there's so much information out there, and there's so much information on your own system. So this is just a helpful video of how to get more information. So we talked about the man, and then the command. We talked about the info command that will allow you to browse information about different types of commands and different help files. And this goes on for quite a while. And it goes several layers deep. And then we talked about the general help command to give you some help, some brief help on a specific command. So I hope this helped you, and feel free again to let me know if you have any questions.